gonna be very annoying for people. Hi. Hi guys. Si sente? Hi guys. I'm gonna move it. Well, let me see whether you can see me. Okay. Yeah. There I am. We can hear you. Yes, you can hear me. You can see me. I guess that we are starting. I've never done this before, so it's rather interesting. Well, I will start. It's only 5 of us as far as I can see. No, it's one disappeared. That's how interesting it is. 2 disappeared. It's 3 of us. Anyway, give us a sign. Who's there? Just type something, please. I'll just kick it off, right? As you know, this is okay. I can see you. Hi, Irene. Cool. Irene. This MOOC has been done with the purpose of working on assessment. And hi, Guadalupe. Great that you guys are streaming through. Very nice. Very nice. So one of the things I prepared, on the one hand, you've seen our MOOC, you see now we have been, trying to put together what are the implications for assessment? What are the implications for assessment as an L2 when people are approaching to the official language of your host country? We have done this by starting from a given perspective that is assessment should not just be ticking boxes. Assessment should not just be filling somebody's work with a red pen mark. Assessment should not just be taking care of what is wrong. Rather, our standpoint, my standpoint, and Jan Dijsselbloem's standpoint, who's my colleague here at Tilburg University, has mainly to do with the fact that assessment is something that is done for the learner, with the learner. It's something that should not be just looking at the performance, rather it should be looking at the heuristic development of a learner. It should be looking at the development of a learner, not only in what he can't do as yet, but in what he's trying to do. From there, for instance, we've been emphasizing the difference between errors and mistakes. We've been stressing quite a bit the difference amongst competence and performance. And in our last part of the MOOC, we've been trying to deal with a more practical approach in which we took out our students, we took them out and about in the area close to university, and we carried out 2 things. So we killed 2 birds with 1 stone. We carried out 2 things at the same time. That is to say, first of all, we carried out an activity in which they could get acquainted with the area around the university. Second, we have carried out a form of, we could call it, ethnographic activity. That is ethnographic research that has mainly got to do with linguistic landscaping. Now, given that I've been talking for about 4.5 minutes by now, I wonder whether I should leave the floor to you guys for a moment, and if you have any questions, to which I would be very pleased to answer, hopefully, that is. So off we go. Questions, kids? Hello, I found quite interesting the L activity. Thank you. Yes, it was. Ethnographic and linguistic landscaping. Could you tell us more? By all means. Okay. So, first of all, about my background, I'm an ethnographer, I'm an anthropologist. So, as every anthropologist, we use ethnography as the method for collecting data. And ELA means indeed ethnographic linguistic landscaping. And it's used in order to, for two reasons. Fundamentally, it's used in order to understand the history of science within a certain sociocultural space. And, and second, it is done in order to see how migration has been impinging upon certain urban spaces, in, let's say, super diverse city areas. Um, who I experimented with? Well, very straightforward. At Tilburg University, we do have a pre-bachelor for dedicated to asylum seekers. So to people that just arrived, people that have gone through the asylum seeking procedure, that are currently awaiting to be approved or rather are approved already in order to stay in the Netherlands, and that have good chances, great chances to enter enter Dutch higher education, whether they go to university or whether they go to University of Applied Sciences. That's to be seen. The whole purpose behind it is that these people are highly educated, they are rather proficient in English, very actually proficient in English. They are increasing their level of proficiency in Dutch. And we thought, let's do something hands on. That is to say, let's take them out and about, not just for a nice walk in the neighborhood, but to have them to reflect upon, look at the languages present in your neighborhood. So, in this case, the neighborhood close to university. But go beyond it. Don't just make a survey of the languages that are present there, but try to investigate the meaning or why a certain sign, a certain symbol is present in a certain space. What does that mean? It means that our students came across things, signs that were in Dutch. They were wondering about the meaning of this sign. These signs, I think you've seen a couple of them, like for instance the one about korting, which means discount. They related it to one feature of Dutch culture. What does it mean in this case? Well, there is one say that says, if there is a something free, something gratis, something free, that you will find Dutch people. Well, is it because Dutch people are stingy? I don't know, but things that are free are quite a bit very famous into Dutch culture. So what we try to do is, on the one hand, the language lesson, on the other hand, a ethnographic anthropological lesson, so that the students get acquainted with how to do social science research, and last but not least, a lesson about knowledge of society, knowledge of norms and values within society. Have I more or less entertained your query and satisfied your question, Cecilia? Give us a yes or a no. It's a bit difficult to give a nod, but a yes or a no would be nice. Yes, we got a yes. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else that would like to chip in with a question? Okay, then I'll carry on talking a little while more concerning another issue that we came across during our walk because that's what you do. You just walk around and you take pictures of signs while you do ethnographic linguistic landscaping. How old were the students in that case? Well, they were all of them from 19 to 25. 19 to 25. And as I said before, there are students that are doing a pre-bachelor. What does that mean? That they were highly educated already in their country of origin. What does that mean? That they are all literate. Not only that, it also means that they have already been acquainted with university in their country of origin. They didn't finish university for all sorts of reasons in their own country of origin. They are very proficient in English, and they are, increasingly proficient in Dutch. The pre-bachelor for asylum seekers that is run by our university has as main subjects, indeed, Dutch language, so literacy, numeracy, mens and maatschappij, which means people and society, so an orientation within Dutch society, and also other components, such as, for instance, the one how to do, social scientific research, how to do economic research, how to do, etc., kind of research. As I was saying before, anyway, one of the experiences that we had while we were in the area around university, I would like you to provide some examples, if possible, based on your experience on how to activate students as the owners of their own learning. Nice question. Thank you very much, Guadalupe. We like that. I think that the activity is really interesting and may be well applied also to other types of students, teenagers. Yes, right. I'll start from Cecilia's remark, and then I'll move on to Guadalupe's question or remark. True, what you say about the activity being suitable and suited for other age ranges. So, for instance, and teenagers, that's absolutely right. What we are doing here in Tilburg at the moment is the development of a leerlijn, so a sort of series of lessons concerning superdiversity. In these lessons, which are dedicated to 15 to 18-year-olds children from immigrant minority background, which does not mean that they are refugees or asylum seekers or newly arrived migrants. It means that these are people that come from a background in which one of the two parents, at the very least, is from a different linguistic, cultural, ethnic, religious background than the indigenous background, so the Dutch. We're developing it at the moment, and I think it will really work. I also think it will really work with a group that has, between 15 and 18, that wants to understand, has to get acquainted with their environment, that is interested in discovering the environment around them, but also that is interested in discovering what sign means and participating therefore in the learning trajectory that somebody does, not just as a learner, but as an active learner. So hopefully I've been able to answer Cecilia's comments. Now I'll move on to Guadalupe's comment. Provide some example, if possible, based on your experience on how to activate students as the owners of their own learning. Well, activating a student as owner. Hang on a moment. Sorry, guys. I really need to take a glass of water. Sorry. I apologize. I was dying off first. Apologies. So activating students. Well, in theory, activating students is something that you do. There's something that a teacher, at least in my opinion, should do in his everyday practice. Another example that we can draw upon is the fifth and last workshop that we, so Jan Dijsselbloem and myself, have been carrying out with the students of the pre-bachelor at Tilburg University. What do we do then? We came in to the classroom and we showed them a scientific text, so a text that you will see appearing in a peer-reviewed international publication outlet. We then asked them to analyze the text and basically explain what was, I wouldn't say peculiar, but what was scientific about that text, which, for instance, can be the content, but not only that, can be the structure, the fact that there is an abstract, the fact there are references, bibliographies, and so forth. Please do remember, these students that I'm talking about are students that are about to enter higher education in the Netherlands, or anyway, higher education in Europe, because they could be moving as well to Belgium, for instance. So my point of view is that we started by making them aware of what is a scientific text. After that, we decided, okay, guys, we brought in some magazines. Some of them were scientific, some of them were less scientific. Of course, they were not tabloids as The Sun or The Star, even though those can be interesting for a language learner. And from there, we have started to sort of poke into their curiosity and say, okay, browse through these magazines, have a look at what is written there, have a look at one text that is appealing to you, that is of interest to you, for instance, about engineering, how to build a bridge, or about economics, and look at how this text is constructed. What are the main differences between the text that you had before and the text that you have in front of you now? So what are the differences between a scientific text and a divulgative text? So a text that is maybe scientifically based, but also meant for, everyday lay public. Another thing that we have in-house that we're using nowadays with a pre-bachelor is our Digit magazine, which I can write to you guys down here, www.digitmagazine.com. And this is basically a platform that is being constructed by my department, by our university, which supports the voice of students. What does that mean? They can construct an article, a divulgative article, or a blog. It has at the moment quite a large number of subscribers on Facebook. It has its own YouTube channel. People that are not extremely proficient, either in English or in Dutch, can have a go at writing their own articles, their own divulgative articles on a topic that they're passionate about. What does that imply? Is that behind it, there is a huge, a fairly wide, let's call it this way, a fairly wide editorial effort being carried out by us as the lecturers, but also by student assistants working on Digit, giving constant feedback to the students and to the writing of the students. What does this imply? Is that you don't only just correct a text, but you discuss the text together with the learner. And you don't just mark a text as right or wrong, but you highlight, for instance, sentence structures or mistakes or expressions that are being used that are not very suitable for that very context. So I think that this could be, the co-construction of text, the co-construction of, the raised awareness of this is a scientific text on the basis of X, Y, and Z factor, and this is not a scientific text on the basis of other factors, might well be one of the ways in which you stimulate learners to become owner of their own learning. Guadalupe, did I more or less answer your question? In the meantime, you guys have fallen asleep. Joking. Irene, are you there? Any question that you would like to ask about our MOOC? Sure, thank you. I also agree that discussion with students are positive. Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. I'll go through the suggested website as well. Yes, you can subscribe to that. You can follow it through Facebook. Yes, but no questions. Thanks. What is your background? What do you do? Because I don't think I've come across you during the project before. Irene, I assume, if you have an Italian background. In the meantime, that you guys cogitate new questions, so that you guys deal with listening to interesting information and feedback. Cheers, thanks. Cool. Right. One of the things that we did not do, that we did not manage to tackle in our MOOC, and this was something that I've been talking about last weekend on Friday. Well, it wasn't weekend anyway, on Friday in Vienna, while I was invited to give a plenary talk. Thank you. It has to do with the Common European Framework for Languages. Now, you know the story, of course, the CEFR, CEFR, Common European Framework for Regional or Minority Languages, was constructed, ideated, put together with a different purpose than what is used for right now. What does that mean in concreto? It means that back then, in the beginning of 2000, this Common European Framework was put in place in order to assess, in order to measure to a certain extent the proficiency of people across Europe in foreign languages. And it was meant to assess the proficiency of immigrant minority children. I'm not talking about newly arrived migrants. I want to emphasize this. I'm talking about immigrant minority children, so children coming from immigrant minority families and their skills in the language, in their home language. So their skills in, for instance, Moroccan Arabic, Berber, Turkish, Italian, if they were from Italian migrant families, Greek, and so forth and so forth. One of the interesting things that you see, though, is that the Common European Framework has been turned into a sort of trap, a testing regime trap. The Common European Framework is nowadays used in order to measure the level of proficiency in reading, listening, comprehension, so understanding, writing even, and speaking of newly arrived migrants. The Common European Framework is a form of assessment which, on the one hand, is based on abilities and on competencies. On the other hand, is based on a pre-formed grid. And as you may know, and as you may think, any form of pre-formed grid has to be fitted to the learner that is in front of you. Any preconceived grid has to be fitted to the learning situation of the people in front of you and to the teacher. So in the moment in which somebody comes up to me and says, well, we do have a Common European Framework for assessing our students' ability and our students' capabilities, well, that's really, something that need to be that needs to be worked out properly, and something that teachers need to be very well aware of. It's a Damocles sword. It's a very good instrument. I'm not saying it's a wrong instrument. It's a good instrument, but at the same time, it has to be reconducted to the learning environment and to a sociocultural space in which learners are to be found. Otherwise, we are simply, measuring things, and the measuring of things as such is never a good thing. It needs to be contextualized. Any other issues? Zeno, how are we doing in terms of are we doing technically wise? Still hanging there? I hope so. Now then, we have another 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes. Now I will ask a question to you guys because it's something that is really coming up at the moment. Yes, here I am, and you can hear me properly. Otherwise, you wouldn't have replied. Thank you. One question I have for you guys. I am extremely interested at this very moment in my research activities. I'm very interested in a project that is called Gains and Losses. Gains and losses basically stands for the following: what is gained and what is lost in the transition phase from the book to the screen in L2 learning for newly arrived migrants. Now, given that you guys have a background in teaching, or at least you are acquainted with newly arrived migrants and second language learning, given that you guys are acquainted with, you're educational experts, and you've been advisor of teachers and school advisors more generally. But I would like to know from you, if you wish, is your opinion about, is there a gain or is there a loss in the moment in which we move from a book-based method for L2 learning to, for instance, instead a web-based or a mobile phone-based method for L2 learning? I will, if you don't answer now, don't worry. It's not really a big deal, but this will be one of the mind bugs that I will publish at the end of the video streaming, and it will be one question mark or a question open for you guys to react upon, discuss upon, and so forth and so forth. I'm asking this question as a matter of fact, because there are classes in the UK engaged with the teaching of life in the UK courses, which are by now stopping to use pads or remote learning or MOOC even, and going back to old school, so to say, books and learning methods for L2 learning. Is there a danger there? Is there not a danger? Is there a gain? Is there a loss? This is all something that you guys can, chip in and let me know what you think. And now you get a smiley. No, I wanted to send you all a smiley for participating, but that didn't quite work out. Oh yes, it worked out. There you are. Thank you very much for the time and the patience you have dedicated to being part of this discussion. Thank you for being here. I wonder whether we are done. I need to know. Thank you. It is an interesting question. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Cecilia. Thanks, Irene. Thanks, Guadalupe. A lot to say about it, though. Yeah, plenty. If you guys are going to be at our last conference in Modena, um, if we are coronavirus allowed, we will be talking about this, and it will be part of my talk during the plenary I will give there. So very much looking forward if you guys can be there to to take the matter further. Zeno, how do we go out and about now? Do we carry on, or I'm quite happy to carry on for another couple of minutes if there are any questions. Um, Otherwise, I'm also happy to stop here and leave this question that I just posted at the bottom of our video discussion. Thank you, Zeno. I think we can close the session. All right. Thank you, guys. Talk soon, and hopefully we see each other again, either on this YouTube channel or in Modena for the conclusive migrant literacy session. Thank you very much. Goodbye.